In an era where money wasn't just power, but a golden ticket to every desire, there existed a marketplace unlike any other. This wasn't your average Wall Street exchange, it was a bazaar of social status, where American heiresses traded their New World fortunes for Old World titles. But what led the richest American women to forsake their homeland's glitter for a different kind of gleam across the ocean? Buckle up, because we're about to dive into some of history's juiciest untold tales. But before we begin, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. The glittering Gilded Age. Let's take a trip back in time to the late 19th century, a period so extravagant it was dubbed the Gilded Age. The streets were bustling with horse-drawn carriages, grand mansions, and the aroma of newfound wealth filling the air. This was the height of America's Industrial Revolution, a time when fortune seemingly sprouted overnight. But amidst this opulence, there was a particular twist. If you were a woman born into this burgeoning wealth, you remained an outsider in the eyes of society. Why? Because the American upper crust had the penchant for looking down on those with new money. Now imagine these young American heiresses, draped in the finest silks, bedecked with jewels, and yet conspicuously disregarded by their own country's social elite. They possessed wealth, but it seemed it was never enough to gain acceptance in the exclusive circles of American high society. It was akin to being handed an invitation to a grand party, only to find yourself prohibited from taking to the dance floor. The frustration must have been palpable, so what did they decide to do? They made a choice that would forever alter their destinies, packing their bags, venturing across the Atlantic, and setting their sights on an even grander horizon. And that brings us to our next chapter. The European attraction. Consider yourself a European aristocrat during the same era. You possess a notable title, an expansive estate steeped in history, and a family lineage that stretches back centuries. An enviable position, or so it seems. But the twist is that you're broke, your estate is falling apart, and you're struggling to keep up appearances. Now picture these American heiresses, initially shunned by their own society, but brimming with wealth, stepping onto the scene. These women weren't just looking for a husband, they were shopping for titles, and the European aristocrats, they were selling. It was a win-win. The women got the prestige they craved, and the broke aristocrats got a financial lifeline. It was like a match made in heaven, or perhaps a business boardroom. The marriage market. Welcome to the marriage market of the Gilded Age, a one-of-a-kind arena where business acumen met romantic aspirations. But not in the way you'd expect. Forget love. This was a game of numbers and negotiation. Historical records show that during this period, 454 marriages occurred between American heiresses and European aristocrats. That's 454 transactions where American wealth was traded for European titles. To aid them in this endeavor, there was even a publication called Tilted Americans, a sort of stock market index, but for eligible European bachelors. It listed not only the available men and their titles, but also their estimated fortunes. Armed with this data, American families would strategize their moves, much like investors in today's stock market. And when these families showed up with their wealth ready to invest, both sides found what they were looking for. Before we go any further, it's time to put some faces to this fascinating phenomenon. We're about to delve into the lives of some of the most notable American heiresses who took this transatlantic plunge. Each of their stories is a captivating chapter in this grand tale. Ready to meet them? Notable examples. First is Mary Minnie Stevens, the daughter of Paran Stevens, a wealthy hotel magnate. She got everything a young woman could want in America, but she set her sights across the Atlantic. Why? She's captivated by the military prestige of General Sir Arthur Henry Fitzroy Paget's family. Now, this isn't just any military family, we're talking about a lineage that has served in the British Army for generations. Minnie was enamored by the gallantry, the uniforms, and the tales of heroism that came with the Paget name. Marrying into this family wasn't just about love, it was about becoming part of a legacy that had defended the British Empire. Now, let's shift our focus to Mary Leiter Curzon, an heiress to the Marshall Field's fortune. She didn't just marry any British noble, she married Lord Curzon and became the Vicereign of India. Hold on a second, let that sink in. She went from being an American heiress to the highest-ranking American-born woman in the British Empire. Talk about a life transformation. Mary was fascinated by the idea of not just marrying into nobility, but also wielding real influence and power. As Vicereign, she was involved in the governance of India, a jewel in the British crown. For Mary, it was the ultimate seat at the table, a chance to be part of history in a way that few could even dream of. Next is Consuelo Vanderbilt. She was more than just an American heiress, she was a woman with a mission. Her marriage with Charles Spencer Churchill, the 9th Duke of Marlborough, transcended mere convenience or a calculated quest for higher social status. Consuelo was drawn to the history and legacy of the Marlborough family, a lineage that had been influential in British society for centuries. Imagine being part of a family that had shaped the course of history. It was like stepping into a living museum, and Consuelo wanted to be part of it. But the interesting part is that the Marlborough estate was in dire straits. The Grand Blenheim Palace, a monumental country house, was falling apart. The property was like a sinking ship, and Consuelo was the lifeboat. Her considerable wealth, inherited from her American family, helped the dying estate come back to life. Gardens were restored, rooms were renovated, and the estate regained its former glory. Now let's delve into the fascinating story of Jenny Jerome. She married Lord Randolph Churchill and became the mother of none other than Winston Churchill, one of the most iconic figures in world history. But then, she wasn't just the mother of a future prime minister, she was a force to be reckoned with in her own right. Jenny was drawn to the political influence that came with the Churchill name. She knew that being a Churchill meant you were part of shaping Britain's destiny. But Jenny didn't merely watch. She actively engaged in political activities. She used her social connections and her own intelligence to navigate the complex world of British politics, and was also a confidant to her husband and later to her son, Winston. And then there's Nancy Langhorn, a woman whose story transcends the commonplace. When Nancy wed William Waldorf Astor in 1879, it was far more than the merging of two hearts. It was a profound alliance with one of Britain's most illustrious families, the Astors. Her wealth breathed new life into the Astor estate, transforming it from a relic into a symbol of renowned magnificence. However, Nancy's narrative didn't conclude with her marriage to the Astor clan. Instead, what awaited her was nothing short of extraordinary. Nancy etched her name into the annals of history as Viscountess Astor, an accolade that carried immense significance. She became the first woman ever to take her seat in the chambers of the British House of Commons. Her journey was a testament to the power of American heiresses in reshaping the course of history. Another prominent name in these women is Frances Ellen Work. Frances's story reveals a fascinating aspect of these women's choices during that era. When Frances married James Roach, the 3rd Baron Fermoy, in 1880, her reasons were more than just about wealth and status. It was a decision influenced by a deep connection to James's Irish heritage, which was as old as the hills. Frances's American fortune acted like a magical remedy, wiping away the financial troubles of the Roach family. But beneath the aristocratic surface, Frances discovered something more meaningful, a link to a family that had been part of Irish culture for centuries. Like the shamrock and the sound of the harp, her choice wasn't just about getting a noble title, it was about becoming part of a legacy deeply rooted in Ireland's history. It was a journey driven by practicality and a profound respect for the historical richness she embraced, transcending both time and distance. Last but not least, let's talk about Margaretta Drexel, the daughter of Anthony Joseph Drexel, a banking mogul. She married Guy Finch Hatton, the 14th Earl of Winchelsea. Now, the Winchelsea family wasn't just your run-of-the-mill aristocrats. They had a history that stretched back for centuries, and Margaretta was fascinated by the family's long-standing history, their involvement in British politics, and their estate that looked like it was straight out of a storybook. For her, joining the Winchelsea family was akin to entering a living archive, an opportunity to become part of a rich heritage. However, navigating the labyrinth of European aristocracy was no fairy tale for American heiresses. They traded skyscrapers for crumbling castles and modern luxuries for outdated traditions, all while their fortunes became lifelines for debt-ridden noble families. Yet, through today's lens, these dollar princesses emerge as both pioneers and participants in a flawed system. They broke social barriers and could be considered early feminists, but also perpetuated a system that commodified women. It's a paradox as intriguing as the women themselves, who defied and defined the norms of their era in one fell swoop. As we journeyed through this unique blend of American ambition and European tradition, we're left pondering the complexities of love, power, and social standing. Did these women find what they were truly seeking? The answers remain as enigmatic as the lives they chose to lead. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing and sharing so we can keep bringing more content like this. See you next time.